Article 210.52 addresses island counter spaces. Specifically, it states that island counter spaces over 6 inches or 152 millimeters deep, provided with receptacle outlets, shall have at least one receptacle outlet located within 2 feet or 610 millimeters of each end of the island and not more than 12 inches or 305 millimeters from the countertop surface. There are exceptions to this rule. Exception A states that receptacles are not required where the counter space is less than 12 inches or 305 millimeters deep and the countertop has no overhang. Exception B states that receptacles are not required where the countertop surface on the short side of the island is less than 24 inches or 610 millimeters wide. Therefore, if the countertop is more than 6 inches deep and has an overhang, there is a requirement to have receptacle outlets within 2 feet of each end of the island and within 12 inches of the countertop surface. When dealing with the situation, firstly, consider shallow gems. Shallow gems could be used to mount outlets on the ends of the cabinets, even if there is limited clearance for a regular electrical box. Secondly, examine the possibility of using Wiremold. Wiremold could be used to add receptacles to the ends of the cabinets without having to install electrical boxes. This would allow for a clean and professional-looking appearance. The inspector's request for outlets on the ends of the cabinet may be due to concerns about accessibility and safety. It is generally best to follow the inspector's recommendations to ensure compliance with the code. The recommendation is to install shallow gems or use Wiremold to add receptacles to the ends of the cabinets, meeting the requirements of Article 210.52. It would also be prudent to bring this issue to the inspector's attention and explain the solution to meet the code requirements. Considering the specific details of the electrical code related to island countertops is critical for ensuring installations are safe and compliant. Here's a more detailed discussion of the key factors, options, and considerations. Firstly, delving deeper into Article 210.52, it is important to understand the purpose of this code. The requirement for receptacles on island countertops is primarily for convenience, usability, and safety. Island countertops are often used as work surfaces where small appliances like blenders, toasters, or mixers are operated. Having readily available receptacles reduces the need for long extension cords that could create tripping hazards or overload circuits. The code aims to minimize the risk of electrical shock and fire hazards associated with improper or makeshift electrical connections. The distance requirements are specifically designed to ensure that receptacles are easily accessible from any point on the countertop. The rule stating that a receptacle must be within 2 feet of each end of the island ensures that users do not have to reach too far or stretch cords across the countertop to access power. The vertical distance of no more than 12 inches from the countertop surface also contributes to accessibility and usability. Regarding the exceptions, they are carefully considered to address situations where the installation of receptacles may be impractical or unnecessary. Exception A, which waives the receptacle requirement for countertops less than 12 inches deep with no overhang, recognizes that narrow countertops are less likely to be used as work surfaces requiring electrical appliances. The absence of an overhang further reduces the likelihood of appliance use, as there is limited space for placing items. Exception B, which applies to countertops less than 24 inches wide on the short side of the island, acknowledges that small islands may not require the same level of electrical access as larger islands. The rationale is that the limited surface area reduces the number of appliances that can be used simultaneously, making fewer receptacles sufficient. Now let's consider the options for meeting the code when an installation does not initially comply. If the inspector has identified a violation due to the absence of receptacles within the specified distances, there are a few potential remedies as discussed. The first option is using shallow gems. Shallow electrical boxes, often referred to as shallow gems, are designed for situations where space is limited. They are thinner than standard electrical boxes, allowing them to be installed in locations where a standard box would not fit. These boxes are typically made of metal or plastic and are available in various shapes and sizes to accommodate different wiring configurations. When installing shallow gems, it is crucial to ensure that they are properly grounded and securely mounted. Wiring connections must be made in accordance with the National Electrical Code (NEC) requirements, and the box must be adequately supported to prevent it from becoming dislodged. It is also essential to verify that the shallow gem box is listed for the intended use and that it can accommodate the size and number of conductors required for the circuit. The second option is Wiremold. Wiremold is a surface-mounted raceway system that provides a flexible and convenient way to add electrical wiring and devices to existing structures. It consists of a metal or plastic channel that is attached to the surface of the wall or cabinet, with receptacles and other devices mounted directly to the raceway. Wiremold offers several advantages over traditional wiring methods. It eliminates the need to run wires inside walls, which can be time-consuming and disruptive. It also allows for easy modification and expansion of the electrical system, as additional raceway sections and devices can be added as needed. When using Wiremold, it is important to select the appropriate size and type of raceway for the application. The raceway must be large enough to accommodate the conductors and devices being installed, and it must be suitable for the environmental conditions in which it will be used. The raceway must also be securely mounted to the surface, and all connections must be made in accordance with the NEC requirements. Addressing the inspector's request, it is important to maintain a positive and collaborative approach when working with electrical inspectors. Inspectors play a crucial role in ensuring the safety and compliance of electrical installations, and their expertise can be invaluable in resolving code-related issues. If the inspector has requested that receptacles be installed on the ends of the cabinets, there is likely a valid reason for this requirement. It may be based on specific interpretations of the code or on local amendments or regulations. It is always advisable to discuss the inspector's concerns and try to understand the rationale behind the request. In many cases, a compromise can be reached that satisfies both the code requirements and the practical limitations of the installation. When communicating with the inspector, it is helpful to provide clear and concise explanations of the proposed solutions. If using shallow gems or Wiremold, describe the installation methods and explain how they meet the intent of the code. Providing documentation, such as product specifications or wiring diagrams, can also help to demonstrate compliance. Remember that the inspector's primary goal is to ensure safety and compliance. By working cooperatively and providing clear and accurate information, it is often possible to resolve disagreements and achieve a successful outcome. The recommendation to install shallow gems or use Wiremold to add receptacles to the ends of the cabinets is based on the assumption that these methods are feasible and practical in the given situation. Before proceeding with either option, it is essential to carefully assess the available space, the wiring configuration, and any other relevant factors. If the cabinets are too shallow to accommodate shallow gems, or if there are obstructions that prevent the installation of Wiremold, alternative solutions may be necessary. One alternative solution is to modify the cabinets to create additional space for the receptacles. This could involve cutting into the cabinet walls or installing spacer blocks to provide the necessary clearance. However, any modifications to the cabinets must be done in a way that does not compromise their structural integrity or create safety hazards. Another alternative is to relocate the receptacles to a different location that complies with the code. For example, the receptacles could be installed on the wall behind the island or on the underside of the countertop. However, any relocation of the receptacles must be carefully considered to ensure that they remain accessible and convenient for use. Finally, consider a formal interpretation of the code. If there is a disagreement about the interpretation of the code, it may be necessary to seek a formal interpretation from the local electrical authority or qualified code consultant. A formal interpretation can provide clarity on the specific requirements of the code and can help to resolve any disputes between the installer and the inspector. In conclusion, complying with Article 210.52 for island countertop receptacles requires careful attention to detail and a thorough understanding of the code requirements. By considering all of the available options and working cooperatively with the electrical inspector, it is possible to achieve a safe and compliant installation that meets the needs of the homeowner. Additionally, there are other related NEC articles that might affect the installation depending on specifics. For example, Article 210.8 covers ground fault circuit interrupter GFCI protection. It's important to verify whether the receptacle serving the island countertop must have GFCI protection. Typically, receptacles located in kitchens and serving countertop surfaces require GFCI protection. GFCI protection is crucial in areas where water is present, as it helps to prevent electrical shocks. The NEC provides tables, such as Table 220.3b, which provides the general lighting loads by occupancy. While this table might not directly apply to island countertop receptacles, it is a reminder to consider the overall load in the electrical system and ensure that it is adequate for the intended use. Further, it is essential to use listed or labeled equipment and materials for all electrical installations. This ensures that the equipment has been tested and certified to meet safety standards. Using non-listed or non-labeled equipment can be a safety hazard and may violate the NEC. In addition to the NEC requirements, local codes and ordinances may impose additional requirements or restrictions on electrical installations. It is important to check with the local electrical authority to determine if there are any local codes that apply to the specific project. For example, some local codes may require that all electrical work be performed by a licensed electrician. Some jurisdictions have amendments to the NEC that are specific to that region. These amendments can be more stringent or may address specific local conditions. Always check for local amendments to ensure compliance. Also be aware of the proper wiring methods, such as using appropriate conductors and cable types. The NEC specifies the types of conductors and cables that are permitted for different applications. Using the wrong type of conductor or cable can be a safety hazard and may violate the code. In addition, there are specific requirements for the installation of conductors and cables, such as proper support and protection from physical damage. And consider the proper grounding and bonding of electrical equipment. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety, as they help to prevent electrical shocks and reduce the risk of fire. The NEC specifies the requirements for grounding and bonding electrical equipment, including the use of grounding electrodes, grounding conductors, and bonding jumpers. Ensure that the electrical panel has sufficient capacity to handle the additional load from the island countertop receptacles. Overloading the electrical panel can cause breakers to trip, which can be inconvenient and potentially dangerous. If the existing panel does not have enough capacity, it may be necessary to upgrade the panel or install a subpanel. When working on electrical installations, always follow safe work practices. This includes energizing circuits before working on them, using appropriate personal protective equipment, and following lockout/tagout procedures. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take precautions to protect yourself and others from harm. The NEC is regularly updated to reflect changes in technology and best practices. It is important to stay up to date in the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes. Attending continuing education courses and seminars can help to stay informed about changes in the electrical code. When dealing with electrical installations, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to ensure that the installation is safe and compliant with all applicable codes. Hiring a qualified electrician can help to avoid costly mistakes and ensure that the electrical system is installed correctly. Remember that electrical safety is paramount. Always prioritize safety when working on electrical installations, and never take shortcuts that could compromise safety. By following the NEC and other applicable codes, and by working with qualified professionals, it is possible to create safe and reliable electrical systems. Article 110 provides general requirements for electrical installations. It covers topics such as workmanship, equipment labeling, and access to electrical equipment. Article 110.3b requires that listed or labeled equipment be installed and used in accordance with any instructions included in the listing or labeling. This means that you must follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing electrical equipment. Article 110.12 requires that electrical work be performed in a neat and workmanlike manner. This means that the installation should be clean, organized, and free from defect. Article 110.26 provides requirements for working space around electrical equipment. It specifies the minimum distances that must be maintained around electrical equipment to allow for safe operation and maintenance.